Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'd. I welcome you all back to another Hadatha my series with Sheikh Salem Taweel Hafidahullah Ta'ala. Inshallah, of course, with couple of setbacks which had happened in between. Of course, I was not able to deliver the best quality. But Alhamdulillah, inshallah, now I'm reviving back and hopefully Allah is our affairs. So inshallah, continuing with the Hadatha series, let's go into this episode for today.
الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد. حدث معي كنت طالبا في المرحلة الثانوية في السبعينات، وكان يدرسنا مدرس تربية إسلامية وفد إلى الكويت من العراق، وكان من الإخوان المسلمين، مشهور آنذاك اسمه طايس.
So Sheikh Salem Taweel Hafidahullah mentions, of course, وَفَدُوا إِلَى بِلَادِنَا وَقَادُوا شَبَابَنَا بِأَمْوَالِنَا. Of course, mentioning about Ikhwani specifically. So back in the 70s, when Sheikh Salem Taweel Hafidahullah was a teenager, back then there was a teacher, of course, of Ikhwan al-Muslimin, that is, who came from Iraq, known as Faiz. So he used to teach this in government schools in Kuwait, specifically in a secondary school, in Marhala Thanawi. So let's see what happened.
وكنت أذكر وما زلت إلى يومنا هذا يقول للطلاب: هل السياسة من الدين؟ والذي نفسي بيده، الكلام في السبعينات، الفصل كله فيما أذكر لم يكن يصلي إلا أنا بحمد الله وطالب فلبيني معنا بالفصل.
So back in those days, and I remember this quite clearly, is that this teacher, Faiz, he used to always say as a politics part of religion. That means basically he used to indoctrinate the youth towards the ideology of Ikhwan Muslimin from back then, back in those days. And of course, out of all of the students in the class, only me, that is Sheikh Salem Taweel, and another the students from the Philippines who was with us in the class, we both of us used to pray. Other than that, all of them, they did not pray Salah.
وكانوا الطلبة أتوا من مرحلة المتوسطة، وكان ذاك الزمن في المرحلة المتوسطة المدرسون يضربون الطلاب ضربا مبرحا، كانوا من جنسية عربية معروفين.
So back in those days, the students, right, basically like they recently graduated from the middle school. And back in those days, the students who, of course, now who study in the middle school, they used to be beaten a lot. And they are beaten a lot severely. This is specifically from teachers of a particular like nationality, Arab nationality. This is it. من جنس عربية معروفين. Of course, now, Nora Sheikh Salem Taweel didn't mention that, but of course, my brothers who come from the Levant side or from Egypt, they know who, that it's about them.
ففي المرحلة الثانوية ما في ضرب، فالطلاب ينفجرون لعب وضحك ومرح ويؤذون المدرسين، ما هم حول لا صلاة لا ديانة لا إلى آخره. فالذي أذكر أنني وحدي كنت أصلي وطالب فلبيني فقط من الفصل كله، وهذا المدرس اسمه طايس الجميلي يقول للطلاب: هل في الإسلام سياسة؟
So of course, Sheikh Salem Taweel reiterated the same thing as before and mentioned is that of course these students, of course, now giving the background is that after they like these students, all even he himself at that Philippine student, all of us, we of course in Mutawassita we used to basically be beaten a lot severely. But of course, once we graduated and went to secondary school, then of course in secondary school there was no beating basically because that was because these children are not like children anymore. Now they are teenagers, like they are growing. So there was no beating. This is in secondary school. So that's why, of course, the students, they went out of control. They started to like uh, trouble the teachers, and most of these students were not like that much practicing in terms of their religion and all of that. Except, of course, Sheikh Salman himself and another Filipino student used to pray salah. This is out of all of the entire class. This is, of course, back in those days. So of course now this Ta'as al-Jamili, this is a very famous like Ikhwani uh, da'i and teacher. He used to always say, is politics part of religion? This is, so let's see what happened.
هذا كله من مخرجات دعوة الإخوان المسلمين. وفدوا إلى الكويت وزرعوا في عقول الشباب الذين تدينوا واستقاموا السياسة وتكفير الحكام، وزرعوا هذه الأمور. منهم من أثمرت ثمرة خبيثة فصار تكفيريا، ومنهم نجاه الله عز وجل، ومنهم نجا لكنه مخدوش. وفد الكويت في تلك الفترة وما بعدها حسن أيوب الإخوان المسلمين تكفيري.
So Sheikh Salem Taweel is basically giving the background. That's how Ikhwanism was spread in Kuwait. So of course the Ta'as al-Jamili, Muhammad Ayub, now of course the names Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq. That's it. So all of these individuals over the time, around in the 70s and the 80s, they came to Kuwait. They started as teachers. This is, and then slowly they indoctrinated the youth into the manhaj of Ikhwan al-Muslimin. This is it. Like is politics part of religion, and of course they indoctrinated the manhaj of khuruj, the fear of rulers. This is, and the secret bay'ah, all of that into the brains of the youth. This, that means they in the like basically what they engulfed upon the academia. This is of these countries in the Gulf, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all of that. This is over the time. So of course, with that there was like now of course now the result aftermath of that was that they were like doctors, they were people who basically infiltrated into the state machinery, specifically in Kuwait and even in other Gulf countries also. At some point, they infiltrated into state machinery. This, some of them judges, doctors, secretaries, and all of that. This, of course, now this background is even important for the brothers in the West also to understand how basically like you will find these people to be infiltrated everywhere in the politics in the world, and they spread their agenda. Let's
طايس الجميلي، عبد الرحمن عبد الخالق، وغيرهم بين مقل ومكثر، فزرعوا في نفوس الناس عداوة ولاة الأمر، حتى أن بعضهم صار تكفيريا، وأكثرهم تأثيرا واستمرارا عبد الرحمن عبد الخالق.
And of course, so much so that it led to the fact that people became takfiris. Of course, like basically the worst like result possible was that some person become takfiri or ISIS like basic sympathizer and all of that, like doing the acts of like suicide bombing and all of that. This, now that was basically like the pinnacle of or the end result of basically this ideology. This, none of course there was another basically side of this ideology, which is infiltration into the state machinery. And of course, Sheikh Salem will discuss that.
وعامة الآن الذين يشاغبون ويتكلمون بالتكفير ويتولون مناصب ويدخلون في مفاصل الدولة لهم وجه أمام الناس ولهم وجه آخر فيما بينهم. هذا الشيء يتكلم فيه ليدرك من لم يدرك، من لم يعش تلك الفترة والحقبة، من لم يعرف حقيقة هؤلاء، من يعلم أو من لا يعلم، من
So Sheikh Salem Taweel, right, is saying that my basically like aim to mention all of this is to basically so that the people could understand how these people basically caused chaos in the country. This is it. They like expatriated to our countries. They led our youth using our money. This is it. And that's why these people, right, in the name of like basically spreading Islam in the name of the donation to Palestine, they engulfed money of the Gulf countries the most, specifically Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Of course, because as we know very well that Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and all these Gulf countries, right, are basically all rich countries. This is it. So they basically had money from back then. So these people basically like, of course, what they did is that they used the soil of the Gulf for their own agenda. Yes. And because of that, of course, in the entire world, when we see that, look, Islam is basically terrorism, is related to Islam and all of that, because of these people, these Ikhwanis. This is it. And specifically about the Gulf, that's the Saudis are basically like the people of the Gulf are extremists. This point was because of these people. Of course, no doubt, alhamdulillah, things are changing. But like for the longest basically time, you will find this narrative basically being spread in the movies and the TVs, like shows and all of that, because of these people, because of Ikhwanis.
يعلم أذكره من لا يعلم أعلمه.
Of course, now Sheikh Salem Taweel said, who knows, I am reminding them, and who doesn't know, I am teaching them. This is it. Because of course, back in those days, like what happened in the behind the scenes and all of that, Sheikh Salem Taweel is aware of it. This is because he himself lived those times. This is it. Of course, now even the part of like story of Jahima, also I believe in the previous episodes was mentioned how that it happened. There's like basically what happened back in those days, all of that. Even that also Sheikh Salmutul mentioned. That's in one of the episodes. You guys could go and check that out as well. Let's continue.
أنا أذكر في أحد أعضاء مجلس الأمة تحمس لموضوع الزكاة، وأن هذه الزكاة المفروض الحكومة تتولاها وتجمع الزكاة من الشركات من الأفراد، بل وتفرض على الشركات الزكاة الشرعية. قام بوجهه من؟ عبد الرحمن عبد الخالق. قال لا، الحكومة تأخذ أموال والبترول وكذا تعطيهم أيضا صدقات المسلمين.
So of course, one of the members of the parliament got excited about the topic of zakat, and he mentioned is that the zakat should be made compulsory by the government and should be taken from the companies and wealthy individuals. This is it. Specifically, the zakat al-shari'iyya, 2.5%, that is. This is it. Now, of course, when Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq heard this, he basically, of course, because him being an Ikhwani, a Sururi, these people are very like what you call, they get salty when the topic of money and donations come, because they want all of those money and donations diverted towards themselves. That's it. So here also, Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq said, like, government has the petrol money, this money, all of that, and you're giving even the charities of the Muslims to them. Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq basically aggressively responded to this member of the parliament, Kuwaiti parliament. Let's see what.
مما جعل هذا العضو يمكن يسمعني هو الآن أن يطالب ب يعني الزكاة ليست كما كتبها الله عز ربع العشر بالاصطلاح الحديث 2.5%. قال لا، يعني نجعل الحكومة، يعني نصدر قانون، وطبعا مجلس تشريعي، أن الحكومة تجبر الشركات على إخراج 1% أو 1.5%، وتترك للشركة 1% هي تخرجها من تلقاء نفسها.
So, as a result of that, this parliamentarian, this is it, he proposed a law, this is it, of course through the Majlis Shari, that like basically through the, what you say, the parliament, that the government should enforce not the complete 2.5%, but it should enforce 1% or 1.5% of zakat upon the companies and individuals. Now, rest of the zakat, which is the remaining part of the zakat, which is remaining 1% or whatever, that they companies themselves should take out that zakat without force. This is based on this thing which Abdurrahman Abdul Khaliq said. This parliamentarian proposed that law. Then let's see what happened.
طبعا لو أردنا تطبيق الشرع لا، ولي الأمر هو يأخذ الزكاة ويرسل من الجبات ويقسمها في التقسيم الشرعي في مصارف الثمانية. ولكن
Of course, if we were to apply Sharia, then Waliul Amr or the ruler is supposed to take the entire zakat and basically spread that zakat, or basically like divide that zakat into the 8 Shari'i Masarif. This is it. And of course, you guys know the famous ayah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم 4 وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. These 8 categories, right, should be given from that zakat, in short. This is because, of course, in that ayah, fuqara, the ones who are needy. This is it. Masakin, and of course, now Sheikh Salem didn't say that. I am saying this to you guys only so that, of course, you guys could basically like relate to it. And even if you guys want to clip this part out, that would be great, inshallah. So, fuqara, poor, like the ones who are needy. Masakin are the ones who are poor but not needy, because you guys should differentiate between that. Now, the ones who are needy, you will find them basically begging, or you will find them like openly saying that we are like in this situation, we want money, XYZ. These are the ones who are needy. Now, the ones masakin, miskin is a person who you see his situation, that he is like, you see that this person is suitable to be given zakat to, but he himself doesn't ask you, this is that I want zakat. He doesn't ask you that, but he himself tries his best to basically be self-sufficient as possible. Now this person is a miskin. This is it. Then of course the more and more categories are there. If like if you wanted to go into that, then of course our topic would divert completely. Let's continue.
هذه الأحزاب وهذه الجماعات وهؤلاء الذين وفدوا إلى الكويت حرصوا على التجار وعلى الزكوات وعلى أن يمسكوها بأيديهم ويتصرفوا بها كيف شاءوا.
This is a very important point, brothers. And I believe in the English dawah scene, Allah musta'an wali tuklam la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, this thing is more prevalent, sadly. Is that you'll find donation campaigns towards Palestine, Gaza, all of that. This is like donation towards poor people in Africa and so on and so forth. Basically led by Muslim Brotherhood organizations, especially in America, UK, US, and all of that, in Western countries specifically. And these people, right, of course, now even in terms of Kuwait also, what they do is that they collect the zakat and all of that, and collect these donations and use it as per what they want, not as per the Sharia. This is it. Maybe they would give, maybe like a like basically, for example, they would claim that we are taking all of these donations and giving to Palestine, but out of it, maybe like a huge chunk of it, they would keep it with themselves. And even this is a very well known fact. This is it. Even like there is like a very problematic here. This is it. I don't want to mention his name. That's but in this like thing, he was correct. Like, he mentioned is that in America specifically, when there is an event, when there is a donation campaign in an event or in a lecture, what happens is that the speaker himself, suppose if a donation is of $1 million, for example, this is it. 500K is in the pocket of that speaker himself. Normstan. Just imagine that all of this hard earned money of the people and all of that is taken by the speaker. Normstan. This is it. That's a very huge problem, Allah specifically in the West. Now, I myself, this is have to be basically make it very clear, of course. Now, what I offer on the other hand is a service. This is it. Now, of course, I am mentioning this about myself so that I could keep my basically account clear in front of everybody. This is that I, right, even if someone gives me a donation, I would return it back. This is, I would say instead that you, if you basically are offering me or paying me anything, then I would want to basically help you out. This is it. For example, if you need lessons, then only no problem. Otherwise, no. I am there to offer service. If you want service, no problem, come. But like without any service, without me doing anything for you, and I take money. No, this is incorrect from my part. This. So that's why I try my best. Basically, is that if I know that I'm able to basically fulfill that service which a person needs, then yes, I'm allowed to take this is it. Even in terms of like Quran, all of that I'm saying, by the way. Because of course, like even there is like a very famous fatwa Sheikh Saleh was. No doubt I have mentioned it in the previous episodes, but I am bringing it up again so that I myself keep my things clear. This is it. Because it's really important that I keep on reminding myself and others out there. This is that what we do at the Sharif Institute is this is it, like reach out to you through these screens. That's it. We like provide service through these screens. This is it. As much as we could in with our ability. Now continue with what with the story of Sheikh, what Sheikh Salman told mentioned. Let's.
الذي يريد أن أحذر منه من عامة الناس، سواء كان له سلطة أو من العوام، حتى نتثقف في هذه المسألة، أن هؤلاء إذا أخذوا أموال التجار وأموال المتصدقين فإنهم يستعملونها في نصرة دعوتهم.
Very important. Is that Sheikh Salem Taweel is giving this a very important basically disclaimer. Is that when these people collect money from like on the behalf of the like basically tujjar, because what they do is that they establish connections with businesses, with businessmen and all of that, for politicians, only so that they could get what from their money and use it for themselves. This is it. Instead of like, basically giving it in the genuine cause. Maybe they might give me in the these genuine causes out there of Palestine or water, maybe few like maybe like a little bit, only so that they could show to the people like, look, we are doing something. This is it. But most of it they would use it for helping themselves. This is نصرة حزابهم, as Sheikh Salman mentioned.
وحزبهم، ولا يظهر بالصورة من هو الذي زكى ومن هو الذي تبرع، فيجمعون أموال الناس ثم هم يتصدقون بها إن ذهبت للصدقات، ومنها ما يخدم حزبهم، ومنها ما يتجملون به باسم أحزابهم وتنظيماتهم. المنتفع لن يقول تصدق عليه فلان الغني الفلان التاجر الفلاني، لا، يعرف هذا الذي أوصل إليه هذا المال، فيكون ولاؤه تابع لهذا التنظيم، سمعه وطاعته لهذا. وأضرب لكم مثلا حسيا.
This is a very another important thing, is that whenever these sadaqat are given out there, this is that now the person who the real muhsin, this is the real basically like the businessman or that guy is not into the doesn't come into the picture. Basically these guys basically divert that picture. This is that means they do not let you know that who is the real mutasaddiq. Yes, these guys basically give the sadaqat on their name. That look, we the Ikhwan Muslimin are giving sadaqat. We are doing good for the Muslims. So therefore, we are helping you guys out. So of course, based on what happened, these poor people who are genuinely basically miskin and poor and all of that, when they get the sadaqat, their basically allegiance and loyalty, right? Basically, that gets connected with Ikhwanis. This is not with the real donor. Allah musta'an. Therefore, what happens is that these poor people, these people slowly they are indoctrinated, they are mobilized into the agenda of these people. Allah musta'an.
الآن الدولة عندها ما يسمى بالعلاج بالخارج.
This is it. Now, of course, Sheikh Salman Taweel, like now the thing which he gave the example of, right? He is giving a real life example of how it happens. Now, of course, now the country, the Kuwait specifically, right, has something called treatment outside, as in treatment in the like countries where medicine or medical basically like surgeries are advanced, more advanced equipments and all that are there in those countries. Doctors who are able to are capable of those surgeries are in those countries, like in the West and so on and so forth. This is it. So what they do, what these Ikhwanis do, just listen carefully.
فكثير من أعضاء مجلس الأمة المتنفذون يلجأ إليه الناس لأن يستخرج لهم إذنا بالعلاج في الخارج.
This is it. So what happens, of course, now that's a scenario in Kuwait specifically, is that people go to this like these parliamentarians to so that this parliamentarian basically like brings them the permission for treatment in a foreign country. This is it. Then what happens?
يذهب هذا العضو بوجاهته بواسطته فيقول هذا جبت الموافقة أن يعالج والدكم في الخارج أو والدتكم.
This is it. So of course now this parliamentarian brings the permission of like a treatment. This is it, and then says to those afflicted people like, look, your for the like I have brought the permission. I have got the permission for treatment of your father or your mother in foreign land. This. So then what happens?
الناس ما يشكروا الحكومة التي دفعت وتكلفت وصرفت وأنفقت، يشكرون هذا العضو الذي سعى وأتى بالموافقة.
Very important is that as a result of this, what happens is that people, right, are not grateful to the government. They would be thankful or grateful to the parliamentarian, to the member of parliament who brought the permission. This is it. So, like the real person or the real basically entity who is provided this facility is the government. This is it. But the parliamentarians, this is it, even though this parliamentarian didn't even put any money in this is it, takes that credit. So Ikhwanis also do exactly the same thing, that they take the money from the rich people, from the like tujjar and all of that, and when they do some like do sadaqah from some of it, this is it. What they do is that the ones who are given the sadaqah, right, what they see is that these Ikhwanis, these people are the ones who actually helped us out. Even though these Ikhwanis themselves, they didn't even put even like $1 into like from their own pockets, they didn't even put even $1 into helping the people. This is Allah musta'an.
حتى رأيت بنفسي كتب شكر وربما لوحات نشكر النائب الفلاني العضو الفلاني الذي سعى في يعني علاج والدنا في الخارج أو والدتنا في الخارج، مع أن هذا العضو أخذ الشكر وأخذ المدح وأخذ ولاء الناس وكسب أصواتهم وإلى آخره، وهو لم يبذل. الحكومة هي التي بذلت، الحكومة هي التي أنفقت. هذا مثال حي يدركه جميع الناس، أن العضو الذي يعني يسعى في إخراج الموافقة على العلاج بالخارج هو الذي يشكر، وهو الذي يحمد، وهو الذي يزكى، وهو الذي يصوت له مرة أخرى. بل بعضهم ليس بعضو، وإنما هو يرغب أن يكون عضوا وأن يرشح نفسه. وهذا وجد يعني في أمثلة لعلها معلومة لديكم، يكون يشتغل هو أصلا في الصحة مثلا، فعلاج بالخارج علاج بالخارج علاج بالخارج، مش على حسابه، ما ينفق شيء من تلقاء نفسه، وإنما هذا علاج بالخارج هذا علاج بالخارج هذا، وإلا بيرشح نفسه يكون عضوا. هي المسألة.
This is it. Now, of course, Sheikh Salem reiterated some of the things that I mentioned, that it reaches to the point that like a guy who is not a parliamentarian yet, or who is not a representative in the Kuwaiti-based parliament or the Congress yet, this person who basically wants to like basically nominate himself, yurashih nafsahu, this guy, like initially basically like what he does is that, of course, he establishes connections and brings these permissions of like treatment in foreign lands. This is it, and eventually people get basically like taking the credit from the government and connected to himself, slowly getting votes from the people, and then eventually he becomes the representative. Eventually he becomes the parliamentarian. This. So here also same thing is there. Mas'ala here. This is same issue is there with the Ikhwanis as well.
فهؤلاء يأخذون أموال الزكوات والصدقات وتجدهم دائما مع التجار والأغنياء، فإذا أخذوا هذه الأموال فإنما يخدمون بها أحزابهم، فالشكر لهم والمدح لهم والدعم لهم والتقديم لهم. هذا الفقير، هذا المحتاج، هذا الذي بني له مسجد، بني له مركز، ما يعرف إلا من وصل له هذا المال، ولا يعرف الدولة فضلا عن التاجر الذي أنفق هذا المال. ولذلك خاصة الإخوان هؤلاء يحرصون على العلاقات مع التجار.
This is it. Now, of course, Sheikh Salman reiterated the same point as that these Ikhwanis, this is like, of course, now this poor guy for whom this masjid is being built, or like whatever help is given to him, this person, right, shows gratitude not towards the actual donor, whether it is like a businessman, let alone a government. They show gratitude towards this like entity, the Ikhwanis, who like were in the forefront when uh, basically who came into the forefront and did the thing. That means, like, in order for me to explain it in a better way, like for example, this is the government. For example, government spends. This is the middleman, the Ikhwanis. This is it. The middleman, and these are the people. For example, of course, I'm giving you as an example. So government is the one who spends, okay, or the businessman who spends. Now these Ikhwanis, what they do, they come as a middleman or as a broker. This is it, between them, between the government and the businessman, for handling their money and basically doing sadaqah. What like, of course, most of it they don't do sadaqah out of it, by the way. That's maybe a little which whatever they do sadaqah with, they even in that also their main agenda is again basically self credit. This is it. So there also what they do is that this person, this poor guy who gets the sadaqah, they only see that these Ikhwanis are the ones who help them. But the actual businessman or the government, they do not know that. This is it. Why? Because these Ikhwanis take that, steal that credit from the government or from the businessman and put themselves at the forefront. Allah musta'an.
ما أن يبنى مسجد في أوروبا في الأماكن هذه اللي إلا ويسلم للإخوان المسلمين بأموال الكويت، بأموال تجار الكويت، بصدقاتهم، بتبرعاتهم، يبنون منهجهم وحزبهم ويكسبون الناس باسم الحزب، مع أنهم لم ينفقوا شيئا، وإنما هم الواسطة بين التجار وبين المستفيدين، سواء من بني لهم مسجد أو مركز أو دار أيتام أو حفر لهم آبار ونحو ذلك. من يتفطن لهذا؟ من يقضي على هذه المشكلة؟ هؤلاء الأحزاب إذا فعلوا هذا الأفعال وتمكنوا فإنهم يسيطرون سيطرة تامة، الكل سيكون معهم، هم أصحاب الأموال، هم أصحاب التبرعات، هم أصحاب الواجهات، هم الذين يفعلون، هم الذين يرفعون يخفضون. ولذلك مثلا أحد التجار معروف.
Now, Sheikh Salem Hafidhahullah again reiterated the same things and even mentioned the example of Europe. Is that really, like, for example, suppose if the masjid is built in Europe, it is built by the money of who? The money of the state of Kuwait, the country of Kuwait, the businessmen in Kuwait. But it is handled by Ikhwanis over there. That means the organization or the management of the monies, all of that is handled by the Ikhwanis there in Europe. And that's why you'll find most of the masajid in the West, there's Europe, USA, everywhere, like UK, most of these masajid, right, what they do, and this is very interesting, by the way, even one of our well-known du'at upon the way of the Salaf, as كذلك نحسبه والله حسيبه, our honored brother Shamsi. No doubt I might disagree with him in terms of the spubs and whatnot, but he also mentioned this once. Is that Allah, I believe he mentioned more than once, Allah Ustad, is that these Khawarij, these Takfiris, these Ikhwanis, right? All of the masajid in the Europe, all of that, they handle it. But whose money comes to them? Money from the Gulf. Those Gulf rulers or those same Gulf people who they have hatred towards. Specifically Saudi Arabia. That's very crazy, Allah Ustad. But of course, as of now, most of the Gulf countries have made strict laws about the donations and all of that. That means on ad hoc basis, me as a person, Faris Sharif, cannot collect donations. This is it. And I'm in the Saudi soil, for example. This, as long as I am resident in Saudi and I'm living in Saudi soil, then I cannot connect donations on ad hoc basis. This is yes. So as you can see, these people, like their main focus, as you can see, money, businessmen, politics. These three things, like basically they have all of them lobbying, all of these things which I'm mentioning, right? Ikhwanis are fully integrate themselves into this, or they what they do is that يتغلغلون في مفاصل الدولة. Sheikh Salem Taweel says specifically about Kuwait. But even you will see them overall, they are like the octopus operating in 70 countries in the world. اللهم المستعان.
يبعث طلاب للدراسة في الخارج، لكن ليس هو الذي يبعثهم، هو وكل الأمر إلى أحد الدكاترة.
That's the same issue here. Is that like a parliamentarian or like a businessman? This is it. What he does is that he sends, he basically takes the permission, or basically like he gives the money so that a student could go to a foreign land and study. Now, what happens is that he basically gives the organization or the basically management of these matters to one of the doctors. This is it. Now that doctor takes the credit. This businessman is out of the picture. The country is out of the picture here also.
فإذا أتى من يريد أن يدرس في الخارج، خاصة مثلا من فئة البدون، يأتي لمن؟ ليس للتاجر، يأتي لهذا الوكيل، هذا الدكتور الشريعة اللي وكله هذا التاجر، فهو عنده الموافقة من عدمها. فالناس ما تعرف التاجر، تعرف هذا الشخص. هذا مع الوقت سيكون زعيما، أرسل هذا وبعث هذا وساعد هذا، وهذا تخرج على يديه، وهذا لولا الله ثم هو ما درس طب ولا هندسة ولا. فهذا الآن لاحظوا هذه الشخصية، الآن هو يربي لنفسه جماعة، مثل ما ربى عبد الرحمن خالق وغيره. يربي لنفسه عن طريق أموال التجار، هو الواجهة، هو الذي يبعث، هو الذي يوافق، هو الذي يمنع، هو الذي يرفض. يبني لنفسه شخصية حزبية، هو الآمر هو الناهي.
This is it. Very problematic thing is that the businessman Haba Mansoor, Allah Mustaan. That's how it becomes. That's over the time. Is that the one who's the wakil, right? Specifically on these Ikhwanis, usually a wukala, if you guys note. Wukala, basically, I'm not speaking about them being lawyers. That is in Urdu, by the way. Even in my country, India, also, most of the people, Muslims who are lawyers, come from the Ikhwani background. This is, of course, that's another basically thing to discuss for another day. But here also, same thing. Wukala is basically secretaries who are the middlemen or who do the things on the behalf of the businessman. So the businessman is not given the credit. This wakil was the one who gets the credit, and over the time, this doctor or this person who's of course of Ikhwan Muslimin basically ideology, over the time he takes over. This is, and people start to look up to him and say, look, this guy, may Allah bless him, he helped us with XYZ thing, This is, and then he starts to create this sectarian personality of himself. How similar to how Ahmad Abdul Khaliq also did over the time. This is it. Is that he developed this personality. He led the people. He infiltrated the people inside the state machinery, and it led to problems as we know.
لابد أن نتنبه، وحتى لا تعاد الأخطاء نفسها، وحتى لا تظهر رؤوس وجماعات وأحزاب ويتغلغلون في مفاصل الدولة ويرفعون ويخفضون ويأمرون وينهون. إن دخلوا انتخابات فلهم بعد الله فيما يرون فضل في إنجاح هذا ودفع هذا وإرسال هذا للعلاج وهذا للدراسة وهذا ينقل من مكان إلى مكان. صارت السيطرة لهم، فلذلك حتى الحكومة تورطت بهم. الناس تعرف أن هذا اللي بيض الله وجهه، الذي أرسلنا للعلاج، أو نقلنا، أو دبرنا، أو وظفني، أو إلى آخره. والحكومة ما لها فضل، ماكولة ومذمومة. نسأل الله العافية. انتبهوا، أرجو وأتمنى من الله أن يتنبه الجميع، وأن نتعاون على القضاء على هذه الترتيبات الحزبية المقيتة التي تأخذ لنفسها ولا تبالي بالآخرين، وتنسب الفضل لها، وهم ما هم إلا مرتزقة. وصلى الله وسلم بارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله وحده، والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده.
Again, Sheikh Salem Hafizahullah basically concludes it with a beautiful note and says, is that at the end of the day, these people, Ikhwanis, right, wherever they go in the world, right, you'll find them lobbying for themselves. This is it. Whether it is financially, politically, business wise, economically, everything. This is it. They do not care about people. This is it. Even basically when you see them even doing sadaqah, donation, all of that, in that also, they have an agenda in mind. They do not do it for the sake of Allah. Now somebody could say, Faris, you're doubting their intention. No, this is something which is apparent we are saying. This is it. Of course, what's inside maybe of a particular individual among them, that's between them and Allah. But of course, what's like has been documented, by the way, this is over the time. That like basically as Sheikh Salman Taweel says, that the government of Kuwait, Allah stands is ma'kula wa madhmuma. Ma'kula as in like taken from it, like, and mazmuma at the same time criticized. This is it, eaten and criticized. Like, basically, like that means they are not appreciated. In fact, they are being criticized, even though they are the ones who basically do everything. This is it, Momstar. Because of these people, because of these ikhwan. So that's why Shaykh Salmatul says is that we should basically get rid of these ikhwanis. This is in every way. This is ideologically mainly. This is like donation wise. This is it, and all of that. So inshallah, and of course now this another episode also is related to it, by the way. This is so inshallah. With that being said, that should be it for today. Then we continue the another episode in the in some other time. Inshallah, that should be for today. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.